Let's turn our attention briefly to the crisis in Rivers, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara has defended the peace deal initiated by President Bola Tinubu between him and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike, over the crisis in the state. Fubara, in a broadcast, said the resolution brokered by the president to resolve the crisis was not a death sentence, adding that it would ensure lasting peace in the state. But the People's Democratic Party National Working Committee, in its reaction, warned the governor against implementing the agreement he signed without the input of the party, that's the PDP, on whose platform he was elected. In a new development, the PDP officially joined a suit seeking to declare vacant the seats of the lawmakers who defected from the party to the APC. To take a look at this latest development, we're joined by human rights lawyer Ekine Henry. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for giving us your time. It's intriguing that despite the condemnations, even you, when you came on Nigeria Tonight, of the president's intervention, we used strong words, I remember. Some even defended the governor that he couldn't possibly have signed the resolution until, of course, we learned otherwise. Now we have a broadcast of him on the same subject saying it's not a death sentence. What's your general thoughts about this?
Well, this utterance or this broadcast by the governor has also raised another round of serious talking points in Rivers State, and I think across the country. With reservation, it was received because there were those who really felt that the governor didn't really seem to appreciate the countenance of the Rivers people that he leads, and then the position of Rivers indigents and residents with respect to the agreement, what I had earlier christened the Abuja imposition. So it remains that position, really, when it comes to the assessment by the people. That broadcast was by the governor. Of course, the governor will usually, at a moment as Christmas, make such broadcast. But it wasn't expected that the governor was going to make that remark with respect to the feeling of the people. And let me put this in context, what's really happening here in Rivers State. There has been a greater number of dissatisfaction with respect to the response by the governor. And people feel here that it appears to be more of the interest of the governor as an individual, but not quite considering the interest of the generality of residents in Rivers State. Because the people of Rivers State have actually rejected that agreement entirely. So it's not just about the issue of signing, whether the governor executed that document. It's not quite what we're concerned about. And I hold that view as well, because there are fundamental issues that appear on the clauses, the 8 clauses on that agreement that Rivers residents and indigents felt really dissatisfied with. Not just because they are unconstitutional and illegal and then offend provisions, extant provisions of the Constitution, but also a ridicule to the mandate of Rivers people to the governor. And then, of course, the seeming suppression of Rivers people by an individual, and then, of course, getting the support of Mr. President. So that's the general summary of the feeling of Rivers residents and indigents. And then
everyone
is really palpable here.
Everyone is under the impression that we operate a democracy in Nigeria and we copied it from somewhere. Has there been a scenario in a democracy where the president brokers a resolution, a group, even the governor said it was a presidential proclamation, if I recall the words correctly, on a crisis in a state? How does that work in a democracy? Is it something that we've seen before and that we're practicing now?
No, it's unfortunate. It's different. It's strange, and it shouldn't even be. And I think maybe this is the point again that I will emphasize the position I've held and will continue to hold, that suppose mediation or peace pact will not take the place of constitutional provisions, extant provisions of our Constitution. Speaking about democracy, the foundation of democracy really is the rule of law. And the rule of law simply will mean the predominance and supremacy of the law. And then in this regard, the ground norm of this country is the Constitution. So, and the governor of Rivers State, the legislators of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Mr. President, and Mr. Minister have all sworn to uphold this Constitution. The seventh schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with respect to oaths of allegiance and oath of office is to the effect that any public officer who assumes office and swears to this oath will be guided by the principles and provisions of our Constitution and no other consideration, particularly when the issue you are going to discuss or mediate relates to constitutional provisions and legal matters. Let's not also forget that the Constitution is supreme. Section 1 of the Constitution maintains the supremacy of our Constitution and makes the provision binding on every person and authority, including Mr. President. So the point we have made is this. Even when the president appeared to be disposed to peace and peaceful resolution of whatever dispute, which we don't even see really here, what's the dispute? Because in every mediation, the mediator must establish three critical elements. Number one will be the parties. Who are the parties in this seeming unnecessary, avoidable dispute here? Can the Rivers State government and Rivers State people be in a dispute with one individual, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, or any individual of that? Then two, you must identify the dispute itself in terms of what is the conflict. And then before you identify the interest and position of the members, the disputants. If Mr. President had remembered that he swore to an oath to always protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and uphold every provision of that Constitution, then when it got to the points in that resolution, in that mediation, that related to constitutional provisions and legal matters, he would have guided himself with the provisions of the Constitution. So that you cannot give directives in a way that will offend or contravene the provisions of the Constitution and even decisions of the Supreme Court. That's been the issue back here in Rivers and I think across the country on the debate of the purported agreement, which I refer to as the Abuja imposition.
That is not only the part of the Constitution that seemed to be concerned right now. We know that the PDP isn't having any of it. They're saying that the issues at stake that the president has bothered himself with are bigger than him. And they're talking about the question of the seats of the 25 or 27 lawmakers who defected. They say it's a constitutional issue, not at the wishes of the president. So if we have constitutional issues at stake here, there seem to be silence in some quarters. The name Wike keeps coming up, but so far in the dispute that you said there are supposed to be issues that are supposed to be dealt with, he doesn't seem to be coming out to say anything. Where does this all leave us as a people and the state?
Well, it's regrettable. What this clearly plays out is undemocratic dispositions of supposed democratic leaders in this country. And that's why sometimes I've actually held that we rather are aspiring a democracy, but not a real democracy in that regard, because it's clearly a violation of the fundamental foundation of democratic society, which is the Constitution. What it leaves us with really here is what we're having, where people talk on different leanings. Either you are on political leaning or in favor of one individual, to the extent that I'm afraid that Nigerians are even joining the president and those who attended that meeting to throw our Constitution aboard. I had a program and then somebody was like, what is it about the Constitution? What is it about the law that the president can intervene in all matters? That is not correct. That's a threat to democracy. It's a threat to our constitutional democracy and, of course, a threat to rule of law. So what I would have supposed the president and those who attended that meeting to have done was that when it got to the point where there were constitutional matters with respect to the defection, for instance, you simply say, oh, gentlemen, Section 109 of our Constitution, which I have sworn to uphold, has really explained and is so clear, unambiguous, and the Supreme Court has held in a number of cases with this regard. I can't get into that. But it's unfortunate that we play politics the way we play, with impunity, with disregard to constitutional provisions and on the rule of law. This is not the first time. It's quite unfortunate. And it will remain this way in Rivers State. As far as we are concerned, true Rivers indigenes and residents do not recognize those 25 members as members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. And there are a lot of litigations that are still in court. And I tell you that more are going to come up, especially even after that agreement.
After the festivities, I'm sure we'll be headed to court. I will be hearing what the court has to say. It's unfortunate that the courts are deciding our democracy. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's always my pleasure to be on your platform. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance, please.
Merry Christmas to you too.